I have hit a slate for a second. Apologies. Welcome to Derby Deep Dive. Had to get a little studio set up here before we got underway, and we are underway for Derby Deep Dive on this Friday morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Seth Merrow. Today's show, we'll have Jeremy Plonk joining us at Countdown to the Crown, and going to take a look at some of the action over the past few weeks, get an overview at this point of where we are on the three-year-old scene on the way to the Derby, but also talk about, again, the last couple of weeks, the Tampa Bay Derby, the San Felipe, and the Virginia Derby last week. We also talked with Jeremy. That was a little review. We talked also in preview of the Louisiana Derby and the Jeff Ruby at Turfway. Louisiana Derby, obviously, at Fairgrounds. And I'm saving those for tomorrow's show, Racing Across America. So again, we'll do kind of an overview and a little review of some of the recent action with Jeremy today, and we'll do a little preview of the two nice stakes coming up on the Derby Trail tomorrow morning with Jeremy on Racing Across America. So again, we recorded Jeremy yesterday and split it up into a couple of separate interviews that, as I say, we will show some today, some tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Again, tomorrow, not only Louisiana Derby at the Fairgrounds, great undercard of stakes races as well. All of that tomorrow at the Fairgrounds and tomorrow at Turfway, with an afternoon card at Turfway. Good question. Jeff Ruby goes off at about 6:25, but race number 1 at Turfway, 12:45. So they have an afternoon card tomorrow at Turfway. But again, they have the Jeff Ruby on the three-year-old side of things. But like Fairgrounds, nice undercard of stakes action as well. And a couple more three-year-old races also. They have one, every year they do this. The Jeff Ruby is the big one, the points, and gets horses to the Kentucky Derby. But they also have a two-turn race, the Animal Kingdom. And then they have a sprint race for the three-year-olds as well. So that part of the card tomorrow at Turfway. And again, also over at the Fairgrounds, great action leading into the Derby and the Oaks. Both places have three-year-old filly races as well. So it should be a fun day tomorrow. But in the meantime, as I say, we pulled Jeremy Plonk on Countdown to the Crown and more to get some of his thoughts at this point on the three-year-olds in general. And as I say, the last couple of weeks. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, Jeremy Plonk, stay tuned.
The championship season is on at Gulfstream Park. There's great horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Come out and enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete over the Hallandale Beach Oval all season long. Take your experience up a notch and join us in 10 Palms Restaurant with unbeatable track views, outstanding dining, and convenient wagering options. For reservations, event schedules, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
If you don't have a Capital OTB account yet, now is the time to log on and take advantage of the sign-up bonus. More details at capitalotb.com. Become a Capital OTB account member now and enjoy free past performances, wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, contests, promotion and events, and more. So sign up now and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Happy to be joined by our friend Jeremy Plonk. We're plugging him in at various points along the trail here on Derby Deep Dive because he does the great Countdown to the Crown package, which gives an extensive look at the sophomores leading into the Triple Crown. Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning. It's always good to talk Derby, and it's starting to get that time, right? This is final round preps, and it gets serious from here out.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because I've said maybe to you the last time we had you on, but the last couple of weeks I've been saying to guests, you can have a top five. I'm still not sure you're pointing to your top five and saying, yep, I have the Derby winner in there. I'm not sure it's solidified. I'm expecting over the next few weeks we'll start to get stronger opinions, though.
Yeah, I mean, the mile and an eighth makes a big difference, right? Now, mile and 3/16 like we'll see in the Louisiana Derby. So a lot of horses can get that 2 turns, the mile and a 16th. At tracks like Gulfstream, it's a 16th pole finish line for a mile and a 16th. So they haven't even had the full run of the stretch yet at Gulfstream Park. So yeah, you can kind of start to congeal your opinions a little bit and see who you think the real talents are. But who can get the mile and a quarter is always the biggest question when we get to Churchill. But you got to get the 9 furlongs first and at least look like you want to get the 10. And then we'll all find out in the first Saturday in May.
Pulled up your countdown to the crown top 20 from last week. And before we go any further, just tell people a little bit. I talk about it all the time, but Countdown to the Crown package comes out every Friday. Where can people find it?
Yeah, go to countdowntothecrown.com or go to horseplayernow.com, and there's a Countdown to the Crown link. You can also on Substack sign up Jeremy.Plonk at Substack, and you'll get it sent to your email inbox each and every week. So Substack is a great way to follow everything I do handicapping wise, not only Countdown, but some handicapping analysis from tracks around the country as well. So be sure to check that out. Always a free service there at Substack. So, I've been doing Countdown to the Crown for 21 years now. This is the 21st season, started back in 06. And this is one of those years where it doesn't feel like there is just a hammer, right? There's not a horse who everybody's got at the top, and you've got to beat this horse to get to that point. We're waiting for the big candidate. It's like a big primary somewhere, and none of the candidates are polling more than 15% right now, Seth.
I totally agree, but I think everybody is at near or at the top of the list has Paladin like you do. And
Sure.
Again, this is from your list last week, Paladin on top. And the Derby Future Pool that closed last weekend had Paladin as the single favorite, but co-favorite. I was shocked. Chief Wallaby, they were both at 8-1. Chief Wallaby taking that action from the betting public. And Commandment, who beat him in the Florida, the Fountain of Youth, Commandment was a longer price, I think at about 12-1.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Bill Mott bias going
There
on
has
right
to be.
now. I think, with the success of Sovereignty last year, everybody's, you talk about the recency bias amongst handicappers, and not like Chief Wallaby ran last week, but it's fresh on everybody's mind what Bill Mott did last year in the series. And if this looks like Bill's follow-up to Sovereignty, well, then that's good enough for a lot of people. And it should be, as well as Sovereignty ran last year. But Sovereignty was a very good 2-year-old, if you recall. He won the Street Sense at Churchill. He had credentials coming into the 3-year-old campaign. Chief Wallaby just kind of jumped in at the 8th pole, if you will, and he has the 2 career starts. He hasn't won a stakes race yet, and yet he's co-favored for the Kentucky Derby at this point. Look, I've got Paladin on top because of one factor. He's won twice at a mile and an eighth already. And we talk about, well, can these horses get a mile and an eighth? That's what they're all about to find out. He did it in the Remsen at 2. And of course, the Risen Star was at a mile and an eighth. This Fairgrounds really extends their horses on their trail. So he's already won twice at 9 furlongs. Do I think there are more brilliant race horses than Paladin in this crop? I do. But if you're trying to tell me right now, the Derby's a mile and a quarter, he's won twice at a mile and an eighth. And so that's got to put him on top, at least in my estimation. Now, when some of these other horses get to a mile and an eighth and maybe beat him in the bluegrass or run more sharp races at a mile and an eighth than he has, then we can kind of talk about who we might like more than Paladin. But right now on credentials, it's hard to argue against him.
2 and 3 on your list again from last Friday, Renegade and Reagan's Honor. Renegade 13-1 in that future pool when it closed last week, and Reagan's Honor 38-1. I'm with you. Reagan's Honor to me is very intriguing.
He was the bet last week in the futures pool because, as I tell people, and I wrote in Countdown, in that futures pool, when you have one race left, one prep race left, you're looking to get double the price you would on Kentucky Derby Day. That's my strategy because you've got to have the time and you've got to assume your horse is going to win or run very well in that last prep. So you've got some risk involved, obviously, by taking a play at this point in the futures. You want to try to get double your price. Assume your horse is going to win and then try to figure out what the price would be. If Reagan's Honor wins the Bluegrass, and I think he might, he goes to the Kentucky Derby 3-for-3, undefeated, and just beat Paladin at Keeneland. He's going to be no worse than second choice in the Kentucky Derby. And in this year's field, that's 5 or 6 to 1. So I was thinking anything in that 15 to 1 area would be really good value on him in this last pool. And 35 to 1 plus was great value. I think he was the bet last week, Paladin. I also think Intrepido's in that same boat. He was up over 70 to 1 in that pool last week. And Intrepido's a horse where I'm not so sure what the heck is out there in California, but he seems like the most consistent of those horses. If he wins the Santa Anita Derby, he'll come and he'll be low double digits. I don't think Intrepido is going to be a 5 to 1 shot in the Derby, but he's 10 or 12 to 1 if he wins the Santa Anita Derby. And I think he could. Now you got 70 to 1 plus on him in that pool. So a good value play in there in Intrepido as well.
Totally agree on Reagan's Honor. And Intrepido, I will note, sentimental for me because my first visit to Santa Anita was the weekend he won the stakes race last October. So
yeah,
I'm plugged in a little bit there. All right, we're going to do some preview in a couple minutes, but let's do some review of some races that made, notes for horses over the last couple of weeks and going back to the Tampa Bay Derby.
They're 4 across the track as they come to the 8th pole. On the outside, the Puma, Canaletto, further ado right there. Redland Rebels not done as they have a final 16th to go. The Puma, further ado. These two go on. Canaletto's between them. The Puma's in front late. The Puma wins the Tampa Bay Derby.
Curious to hear your take on Further Ado coming out of that one, running second. The Puma breaks his maiden there. Originally a 95 buyer. It was downgraded to an 89 subsequently, but he wins. Further Ado second, and Canaletto, to me, is also interesting, runs third. And they were all there, and there was a little traffic and whatnot. But what was your takeaway from the Tampa Bay Derby a couple weeks ago?
I thought going in, there were a couple of really nice prospects in there. The names of the horses you had mentioned, Further Ado, Canaletto off the big win at Gulfstream, the Puma off, a good third place finish in the Sam F. Davis behind Renegade, who I have a ton of respect for, as you saw and you heard when you mentioned the rankings, where I've got Renegade amongst the top 2. So I thought going into this race, there were some really nice horses. And at a mile and a 16th, I thought maybe they'd separate themselves a little, but they really didn't, right? They kind of clumped up a bit in here, and the top 3 are all quality horses, but 3/4 of a length ahead, the first 2 margins. Third place horse gets beat less than a full length. Either I'm right and all 3 of them are pretty nice horses, or the race wasn't quite as good as we were hoping it might be. When horses finish in a heap like that, sometimes you get a little bit concerned that the race wasn't that great. That Redlands Rebels, who set the pace in that race, held on and ran 4th and didn't get beat all that far. That kind of makes me worried a little bit more about the race than I want to be, because I thought they should have dusted Redlands Rebels, and he was still kind of hanging around there at the 8th pole and didn't get beat all that far. To me, he's 100 to 1 shot if he would be, in the Kentucky Derby. So I don't know. I'm a little down on the Tampa race. And again, Renegade won so nicely at a mile and a 16th in the Sam F. Davis. He didn't show up in this race, right? He skipped that one to go to the Arkansas Derby next. So Tampa Bay Derby didn't get its A-list headliner. That horse bypassed the race. And the ones who did show up all kind of finished in a clump. I don't know. I'm a little bit down on it, even though I like those horses. Maybe just not for right now. Further Ado doesn't look like he's a horse who made a big leap forward from 2 to 3, and he's going to have to run a big one in the Bluegrass. He'll run back in the Bluegrass. The Puma, they could go to the Florida Derby or wait another week and go to the Bluegrass there as well. Further Ado is going to have to make a big step forward. Maybe he will at Keeneland, where he broke or where he won his first race by 20 lengths there in his second career start when he broke his maiden. So I'm not giving up on Further Ado yet. Canaletto looks like a horse not for the Derby to me right now. He's probably a step away. He looks like a good Peter Pan Belmont kind of horse, with Chad going that direction. Of course, Chad likes to run horses in the Preakness as well. So this could be a horse who goes, Lexington Preakness. But I think for Canaletto, I think you're bypassing the first leg and looking at the second and third legs of the Triple Crown if you're into him. But I think Further Ado gets one more shot. they're definitely going to give the Puma another shot in here to go to the Derby. He's already got the 50 qualifying points, so they only really kind of need to show that he's still in good form and can get the mile on an eighth. He doesn't even need to win his last prep, and he'll be in the Derby.
Yeah, Canaletto, again, interesting to me, but other people have said what you have said. Going to the Lexington maybe next. Maybe they're playing as Preakness instead of the Derby, so we'll see how that one breaks out. Also, a couple of weeks ago, it was the San Felipe, and Patente, the winner there, makes your top 20, or did last week, broke into it at 18. Nice race, 89 buyer. The story there also maybe Brandt too. They $3 million they paid, and winds up running fifth in there as the chalky favorite. Your thoughts on the San Felipe?
Potente is trying to rally on the outside. Robusta with a 16th to go, shifting in while leading by 2. Potente on the outside of So Happy. Potente is lengthening stride, coming to the wire, has to get to Robusta, and here is Potente. Perfectly timed by Juan Hernandez.
Potente you're talking about, right? He had the career debut, ground out the victory at a very short price. Baffert scratched a couple horses in his debut win in order to kind of set the table for him and make that race easy. One of those horses, Crude Velocity, came back and won last week or 2 weeks ago at Santa Anita and looked really good. I like Crude Velocity better than I like Potente, but he's not going to make it to the Kentucky Derby. Potente's racing here at Santa Anita, though, in the San Felipe, to me, workmanlike. I didn't think this was a tremendous race in here. 25.80 for the fourth quarter, 670 coming home. Race just kind of backed up where you knew Brandt didn't look like a distance kind of horse to me. So Happy, not a distance kind of horse, still held on there for a decent third. I'm not wild about these horses towards the Santa Anita Derby. I think Baffert's other horse, Cherokee Nation, probably moving the right direction for the Santa Anita Derby. And then Intrepido still out there for the Santa Anita Derby for Jeff Mullins, who passed this race and will be fresher. I don't know. Potente, I'm not big on Potente, even though they paid a lot for him.
I'm kind of in the same boat, and I was surprised 18-1 on that future pool last week. That seems way too short on that one to jump in with much excitement, but some people obviously like them. And finally, last weekend, it was the Virginian Derby, that fairly new race. Used to be on the turf. They moved it to the dirt. They set up this little 3-day boutique meet. I thought Incredible was interesting. If you looked at that last race down in Florida as an aberration, and I think you could look at it that way, given that the horse won the Street Sense last fall at Churchill. Nice win in the Virginia Derby last weekend, 4 lengths the margin, 88 buyer. Your thoughts on the results of the Virginia Derby?
Top of the stretch in front. Work is down inside, hanging tough. Incredibolt is right there in behind horses, and so too is Oselli. Butane trying to find a way through is boxed in. There's 1 furlong to go. Here comes Oselli coming after Lock, Stock, and Pharaoh. Incredibolt got a seam down inside. Confessional and Butane. Grittiness from far behind, but it's Incredibolt bounding clear in the Virginia Derby. Incredibolt is back in the Derby picture in a big way.
It's a good win for him, and now Riley Mott's going to wait the 7 weeks between the Virginia Derby. He's got the points to play, and they're just going to go straight to the Kentucky Derby off training. Lucas did the same thing last year. American Promise made the race. The runner-up in the race also made the Kentucky Derby for Kenny McPeak. So this race is capable of producing horses for the Derby because of the points, right? It's a 50-point prep race towards the Derby. Incredible got that grittiness. The runner-up picked up to 25. Maybe he can still work his way into the Derby. Probably need a little help to get there, maybe through the Lexington at Keeneland if they want to go that route with the maiden grittiness. Now, the fact that a maiden ran second in this race and has already run, I think grittiness has 6-7 starts. You kind of say, well, what did you beat? What was behind you? But if there was one outcome of this Virginia Derby that you said could have relevance to the Kentucky Derby, it would be the bounce back of Incredible. And he bounced back, right? So if you're looking at this as a Derby prep, this was the best outcome that could have happened. He ran, he looked good, visually looked fantastic running through the wire. It was a 1-turn mile and an eighth, but he did win around 2 turns already. Incredible back there and winning the Street Sense. So he's a horse that I think you've got to consider here as you're looking ahead towards the Derby. I think he's got a lot of talent. Not wild about the 7-week layoff into the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, timing doesn't work great in that sense. That's why there was a void at 7 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby all those years, and there wasn't a prep race. It's not really close enough that you could run back again effectively and then get to the Derby, and it's a little farther away from the Derby than you'd like to see at 49 days. So he's in a tough spot against the calendar, but this is a talented horse who got back to what he should. I have no explanation for what happened down at Gulfstream. There are people say he was on the dead rail at Gulfstream. But when you never pick up a hoof over the course of an entire mile and a 16th in the Holy Bull, to me, it's not the part of the track, right? I mean, you could get out and go anywhere you want on the racetrack when you're as far back as he was and never got into that race. I don't know. And you say, well, he didn't like the track. That was the only thing Riley Mott could come up with. He really didn't like it. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, he just did nothing at all in the Holy Bull. He had to prove it to you in this race to see if he was back. He certainly is, and it was a good race for him.
Butane was the favorite, lines up fourth. So a little bit of a disappointment there. As you say, grittiness as a maiden for Pletcher and Rapoli was maybe a little bit interesting. I used High Camp on top, the Will Walden runner. Oof, that was a disappointment, ran last in there. But incredible. Nice ride from Jamie Torres to go down to the inside. And it'll be fun. Riley Mott, relatively new, I've been his father's assistant for years and years, been out on his own now, a relatively short time. Fun to see him go to the Derby.
Yeah, and look, Mott's got Chief Wallaby. Riley's got the Incredible and could be father and son in the Derby, and that'll wipe out 7 minutes on the NBC telecast, right? You know, that feature's already being written.
Exactly right. All right, Jeremy, appreciate the visit. As always, again, we'll tell people to check out Countdown to the Crown every Friday afternoon, previews, reviews, and now that we're getting into the heart of the schedule, all important information. So thanks again. We'll talk in the future.
Good luck, everybody.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Derby Deep Dive. And the Derby Future Pool closed last Sunday, and we talked about some of the horses with Jeremy. And I think he nailed it. The more I looked at the list and the potential versus the odds the horse closed at last weekend, if you got Reagan's Honor at 38-1, I think you had a good play there. There were some others that were interesting. The short prices, again, Paladin and Chief Wallaby. I was surprised. Co-choices at 8-1, and surprised about Chief Wallaby because he was beaten by Commandment, and Commandment's 12-1. So, but as Jeremy said, there was maybe some Bill Mott there, given what he did with Sovereignty last year. Class President, maybe a little bit interesting at 21-1. Emerging Market, 33-1. We'll see what he does this weekend down at the fairgrounds if he does well. And I think a lot of people are expecting that 33-1 may look very attractive. Full Effort. Also, this weekend, he's in the Jeff Ruby. I have him on top in the Jeff Ruby. A win there. Further Effort, Full Effort, 89-1. So there's a price. Again, Further Ado, maybe needed that race down at Tampa. Obviously needed it off a long layoff and was right there in the scrum. Further Ado, 25-1. Interesting. Golden Tempo runs this weekend, and 36-1 has some potential there. Incredible, again. Anytime these Derby Future Pools are run on the weekend as prep races, you have to wait until Sunday to take your swing. And I'm not sure whether I would have taken the swing on Incredible at 16-1. As I always said, I like 20-1 or more because you have to get there, not just win the Derby. You have to get there, and we're a month and a half out. Iron Honor may be a little bit interesting at 41-1. Litmus Test 45-1. Napoleon Solo, who I liked, in the Fountain of Youth, and coming around the turn looked okay, and then faded again, probably off the layoff, needed one. We'll see in the next start what we get there. And 57-1 may have been enough to take the shot, but again, on the seasonal debut, Nearly at 12-1. And a lot of folks like Nearly. I'm in the camp. I think Nearly is capable and has some potential. 12-1, though, again, a little short. Patante off of the win a couple weeks ago, closed at 18-1. Again, maybe a little short there. Renegade, who has a lot of buzz, deservedly so, closed at 13-1. Silent Tactic at 17-1. Again, I like that horse as well as having some potential, but that also looks a little short. Talk to me, Jimmy, the Rudy, New York bred, who looked really good in the last win down at Aqueduct, 55-1. That's probably about the right price to take a little pop there. The Puma, 23-1. Again, over that 20-1 threshold. I will say all others at 14-1. I think you have the potential to come up with a little handful of some horses, maybe up-and-comers that could be interesting over the next few races. And so the potential $30 payout there was also a little bit intriguing in last weekend's future pool. Speaking of, the potential over the next few races, if you go to Equibase, you can pick up the press release or the information sheet that Churchill Downs sends out every weekend during the prep season. And it's a nice comprehensive look, not only at the Derby, but at the Oaks. It lists points leaders. It lists the races that have been run and the results on the Derby trail with points. And not just the American trail. There is also a Japanese, a European Mideast trail that has points, and a Japanese trail those are new additions over relatively the past few years to get a little international flavor, which adds some fun, certainly. Currently, the leader is Paladin with 60. Grittiness with the Virginia Derby result the other day, 36. And you start to think, boy, you get down there, and we have 100-point races coming up. So there are 700-point races still to go. And then April 11th is kind of your last chance to grab some points. The Lexington offers 20 points to the winner, 10, 6, 4, and 2 down to 5th place. But these next series of races, as I say, 700-point races on top. 100 for the winner, 50 second, 25 third, 15 fourth, 10 fifth. And as I say, Grittiness sits number 10 currently at 36. Some other horses that are kind of, you would think on the outside looking in, potentially further ado with 35, Litmus Test 34. You get down to Renegade 25, Chief Wallaby 25, Intrepido 23, Nearly 20, Talk to Me Jimmy 20. And you think, they need something. And again, another nice thing, there's a lot of information. If you go to Equibase, and there is a 3-year-old leaderboard, and it shows, I think, the top 10, but down at the bottom it says complete leaderboard. If you click on that, you can pull up this information that's put out by Churchill, again, every week during the season. But part of that, the last couple of pages of it, give the final leaderboard for the horses that entered the gate in the Derby every year. And to me, this is kind of interesting. I looked at the last 5 years. The last points horse in, and not necessarily the last horse in, because in some years it's the Euro Mideast runner elects to go, as does the Japanese runner, and so they kind of get in because they top their list and they get in. But on the U.S. trail, the horses that were the last ones in the starting gate, again, looking at the last 5 years, 39 points last year, and going backwards, 20 points, 19 points, 22, and going back to 2021, 10 points got you in the gate. So some of these horses that you're looking down the list and thinking, I don't know, they may need some help. They may sneak in as it is, but help that gets them almost a sure thing could be a second or third or even a fourth place finish in some of these 100-point races. Because as I say, you tend to think if you're down in that 20, 25-point range, you got to juice that up nicely. But looking at the last few years, that could get you into the gate as it is. But certainly everybody does want a little bit of help. And again, over the next few weeks, this weekend, the 100-point races kick off. Jeff Ruby and the Louisiana Derby. Next weekend, it's the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby. And the following weekend, the Wood, the Bluegrass, and the Santa Anita Derby. And then 1 week after that, as I say, there's a 20-point race that maybe you take a shot at if you're looking and thinking, I need something extra to give me the little guarantee. On the Euro Mid-East Road, the UAE Derby is next week. That's a 100-point race. And over in Japan, there's also a points race there next weekend as well. So again, I recommend if you're interested, go to Equibase. Again, front page, top 3-year-olds list, maybe the top 10 or whatever, but at the bottom it says click for the full list, and you can pull up this info from Churchill. As they say, they update it every week throughout the prep season, update the points lists and whatnot. And it's for both Derby and Oaks. Good, kind of fun information. Again, tomorrow, Jeff Ruby Stakes for the 3-year-olds, and at Fairgrounds, it is the Louisiana Derby. Both have some interesting runners in there, and both offer 100 points to the winner. So, and I mentioned it when I had Jeremy on yesterday. You think that Jeff Ruby Stakes stake on the synthetic, what do we make of that? Well, it's been productive over the past few years. Last year, Final Gambit ran 4th in the Derby. 2023, Two Phils ran 2nd in the Derby. And in 2022, recent history, Rich Strike came out of Turfway and won the Kentucky Derby. So both of these races tomorrow will have some Derby implications. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for a Derby Deep Dive. Let me remind you, though, as I say, we did a little overview discussion and some review on recent stakes action with Jeremy that we played today, but we also went into his thoughts on the Jeff Ruby and the Louisiana Derby. We'll play that tomorrow. Also on Racing Across America tomorrow, expect to have Joe Christofek to go over some of the Fairgrounds stakes action as well, including, of course, the Louisiana Derby. So mark that on your calendar for 10 o'clock tomorrow, Racing Across America. We will wrap it up, though, for a Derby Deep Dive today. But before I go, I want to remind you that today, Friday, here at Capital OTB, the Bounty Bet returns late pick 5 at Gulfstream. Just play with your Capital OTB bet account, and you're in for a shot at the Bounty. And tomorrow, it's a Fan Appreciation Day at the Latham branch. If you swing by there, you can enjoy food, vouchers, PPs, the contest. Always a lot of fun. Gives us our chance to say thank you to you. Fan Appreciation Day tomorrow, Saturday, at the Latham branch. And don't forget Clubhouse Racebook today and throughout the weekend. NCAA tournament action. Oh, Siena yesterday. They were right there, and then it happens. They just went ice cold at the end, but they gave Duke all they could ask for. So nice job, GMAC and the Siena Saints. But you can come down and watch all the action here. Hoops and horses throughout the weekend. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, Seth Merrow, thanks for tuning in to our weekly look at the steps along the trail to the Derby Deep Dive. Catch it here every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Otherwise, if you miss it, check it out on the Capital OTB YouTube channel. See you next week.
We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet features great racing now through Florida Derby weekend at the end of March.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.